you just got a rent increase notice. $60 a month. Annoying, but survivable. You sigh, sign it, and move on. Because the alternative is packing your entire life into a truck. For the privilege of doing this exact same thing somewhere else. You think your landlord is just keeping up with the market? You think this is a neutral, faceless transaction. Supply, demand, done. It isn't. Somewhere, a spreadsheet decided exactly how far it could push you before you'd leave, and exactly how far below that number it needed to stay to make sure you never did. A tenant who's comfortable enough to pay rent, but never quite comfortable enough to buy a house, is the most profitable tenant a landlord will ever have. Full sentence synthesis, the thesis rendered visually as one composite worked idea. Not all landlords are the same animal. There's the accidental landlord, someone who inherited a duplex and is winging it. There's the small portfolio landlord, 1 to 20 units, usually an LLC, doing this as a side business. There's the professional operator, 50-plus units, full-time staff, spreadsheets for everything. And above all of them sits the institutional landlord, REITs and private equity funds that now own entire zip codes of single-family homes, run by asset managers who have never seen the property in person. Different sizes, same math. The bigger the landlord, the more precisely that math gets run. Your rent check looks like one number. It isn't. Break it apart, and it's actually 5 separate payments bundled into one. A slice goes to the bank as interest on the landlord's mortgage. A slice goes to the city as property tax. A slice goes to an insurance company in case the roof caves in. A slice goes to a management company, usually 8 to 10% of the rent, just to answer your maintenance texts. And whatever's left, often almost nothing, is the landlord's actual profit. You're not paying rent. You're paying 5 different companies through one middleman, and the middleman is the only one you ever see. Getting into this business isn't cheap. A landlord buying a $300,000 rental typically needs $60,000 down for a 20% deposit, plus another $9,000 in closing costs, plus a reserve fund most lenders now require, usually 6 months of mortgage payments sitting untouched, roughly $8,400. That's $77,400 before a single tenant moves in. And that's before the first broken water heater. The first month of vacancy. The first tenant who stops paying and has to be evicted. A process that in most states takes 45 to 90 days and costs $3,000 to $5,000 in lost rent and legal fees alone. This is why landlords don't want turnover. Turnover is where the money leaks out. So follow your rent check upstream and watch where it actually lands. First stop, the bank. On a typical 30-year mortgage, in the early years, 70 to 80% of every mortgage payment is pure interest, not building the landlord any equity at all, just paying the bank for the privilege of borrowing. Second stop, the county. Property taxes, unrelated to how well the building is run, just a fixed toll for existing. Third stop, the insurer. Pricing in every flood, every fire, every liability lawsuit that hasn't happened yet. Fourth stop, if there's a management company, their cut, taken whether the property performs well or badly. By the time your rent reaches the landlord's actual pocket, it has already fed a bank, a government, and an insurance company. The landlord isn't first in line. They're last. Here's the part nobody tells you. On a huge number of rentals, monthly cash flow is close to zero. The rent covers the mortgage, the taxes, the insurance, the management fee, and that's it. No profit. Every month. So why do it? Because the profit isn't the rent. The profit is 2 invisible things happening in the background of your rent check. 1. Every mortgage payment quietly pays down a little more principal. The landlord's equity grows by roughly $200 to $300 a month on that $300,000 property, funded entirely by your rent. 2. The property itself appreciates, historically 3 to 4% a year, $9,000 to $12,000 a year in value the landlord didn't lift a finger to earn. The rent check is the engine. Equity and appreciation are what the engine produces. You are quite literally making your landlord richer through the exact same payment that's keeping you from saving anything yourself. None of this is guaranteed, though. A landlord's real nightmare isn't a difficult tenant, it's an empty unit. 1 month of vacancy on that same property wipes out an entire quarter's worth of principal paydown. A tenant who trashes a unit can cost $5,000 to $15,000 to repair. A tenant who stops paying and fights the eviction can tie up the property rent-free for months. This is the part that explains everything else. The landlord isn't optimizing for the highest possible rent. They're optimizing for the tenant least likely to ever leave, ever cause damage, or ever miss a payment. And that's the lever. The single number every serious landlord is quietly tracking isn't your rent.
It's the gap between what you can comfortably pay each month and what you'd need to qualify for a mortgage of your own.
Raise your rent too high, you leave. Bad for them. Keep it too low, you save enough to buy your own place and leave anyway. Also bad for them. The sweet spot is a rent that's just affordable enough to keep you paying on time for years, and just large enough that it quietly eats the exact savings you'd need for a down payment. That's not a conspiracy. It's just what the spreadsheet optimizes for, whether or not anyone running it says it out loud. Take that $300,000 property. Rent, $1,800 a month, $21,600 a year. Mortgage payment, about $1,400. Taxes and insurance, $250. Management, $150. Total costs, $1,800. Landlord's monthly cash flow, $0. And yet, by year's end, that landlord has gained roughly $3,000 in principal paydown and $9,000 to $12,000 in appreciation. Call it $12,000 to $15,000 richer for a property that generated $0 a month in visible profit. You paid $21,600 that year. You built zero equity. They billed $15,000 of it using your money, while you signed a renewal notice and called it keeping up with the market. You never got a bad deal. You got someone else's retirement plan disguised as a place to live.